Hello and welcome to In the Ring. I'm your host, Nicky Knuckles. And today I'm proud to say I have Ryan-O-Leary here, a boxing historian, boxing trainer. Ryan, thanks a lot for stopping by the show today.
It's my pleasure, Nick.
Appreciate
Thanks very
it.
much.
And you're a wealth of knowledge. When you think of the word boxing historian, among other things that you're known as, would be guys I would think of like Bert Sugar, Max Kellerman, a local favorite of ours and friend of ours and mentor, Scoop Galello.
Right.
Now, how did you get into boxing? Maybe give us a brief history on that, and why do you have a passion for the history of boxing?
Well, it all started, Nick, when I was about 11 years old. I saw I probably was about 9. I saw the Jerry Cooney, Larry Holmes fight on television. And the history of that was it really separated the heavyweight picture because we had a dominant champ in Larry Holmes at the time. And we had a young upstart Jerry Cooney, a white Irish guy. And what happened was people started dividing themselves like they did back in the old days by race. We had Jerry Cooney, the great white hope. And he never wanted to be called that. He never wanted to follow that route, but that's really how it went. And then we had the African-American champ, Larry Holmes, who was just a dominant champ. Just the way the whole thing was set up in the press and everything, it was intriguing to me. And I had to follow it.
And it wasn't because Jerry's Irish and you happen to be of Irish.
It had nothing to do with that. In fact,
okay.
Larry Holmes was my guy at the time.
Oh, all right.
I'll never forget a friend's father asked me, he said, "Ryan, who do you want, Holmes or Cooney?" I said, "Holmes," and he looked at me like, "That's not the answer you're supposed to say." Well, Holmes was the better fighter at the time.
Yeah.
Turned out to be a competitive fight with Larry Holmes winning late by knockout. It was just fantastic. Ever since then, I stayed in it. Now, I consider myself a contemporary boxing historian. And contemporary historian is really an oxymoron, but what I'm trying to say is I really focus on the fighters 1970s forward. I know the older guys, I know a lot about them, but the brain can only hold so many. I mean, yeah. Bert Sugar could tell you every single guy in the world.
Yes, he can.
But I'm really 70s and above, and I pay attention to a lot of the matches and the mixing, and I really love it and interested in me. And just taping all of the fights, reading all of the books, it just started accumulating, and it's just something I stuck with.
I have a question for you. Saying that you're a contemporary boxing analyst, do you want
Analyst might be a better idea, yeah.
Well, what would be your favorite fighter, maybe a favorite fighter from the 70s, then your favorite fighter of the 80s, 90s, and now?
Okay, I'm going to start from now and go backwards.
Okay.
And I'll do it for a reason. Roy Jones Jr. is a guy out there that's at the end of his career right now. He's fighting at light heavyweight, which is 175 pounds right now. In our era, he turned pro about 1990. In our era, he is probably the most electrifying, had the most skills, the most dominant champion there was. The reason why I said that is he has all the skills. He's won championships in 4 different weight classes. He's dominated everybody he's been in front of. Now that he got a little bit older, his flash is slowing down a little bit. He doesn't have the speed that he had before. And Roy's whole thing was he used to be able to box with his hands down. He could move those hands lightning fast. People couldn't touch him. He could knock you out. Speed equals power. The faster he threw his punches, the more knockouts he got. And that's what he had, a lot of knockouts. As he got older, and everybody does in boxing, no one stays young forever, he slowed down by a step. But that didn't mean he was about to start bringing his hands up or raise them. He didn't. And now that he slowed down a little bit, he's been on the receiving end of a few losses lately. But all in all, his record is untouched. He won the silver medal in the '88 Olympics in Seoul, Korea. He should have gotten a gold. It was the biggest upset and controversy in amateur boxing history. He fought the local Seoul Korean fighter at the same weight class. Roy dominated the guy. I think he knocked him down twice, gave him 2 standing 8 counts. This is in a 3-round fight. Didn't get the decision. The guy might have hit him 6 times. You can understand why he almost didn't turn pro.
Now, so you'd say he's your favorite fighter of the...
I would say 90s till now. There's some guys, young guys right now, in I would say the 2000s, that are coming up there on the rise, but proven-wise, there hasn't been anybody out there that's at that level yet. There is one guy that we're going to get into later that is a champion right now that's fighting next weekend, and we'll talk about that guy.
The 80s.
The 80s, Sugar Ray Leonard. There was a round robin of 4 tremendous fighters, and this is really where the public stopped watching boxing. After Muhammad Ali and these 4 fighters went around and fought each other, once they stopped, the interest really went down, aside from a young Mike Tyson in the 90s. The 4 that I loved were Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy the Hitman Hearns, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and Roberto Duran. They all fought each other. Not one dominated the other. They all had great fights, but the real standout in the group was Sugar Ray Leonard. He had everything. He was the gold medalist in the Olympics. Came out, he was a good-looking guy. He was spontaneous. He was action-packed. He showboated, but he backed up his showboating too. He was fantastically nice. He was generous. He was great on camera. He smiled. He did the 7-Up commercials. You know, Ray Leonard was the guy. When he got into the ring with people, there just wasn't touching him. He had the speed. He had the power.
But a fighter that one of my favorites, and he always gets overlooked, is John Mugabi.
Yeah, John Mugabi was one of these killers from Africa that just came out, and anybody you put in front of him, he could knock out and destroy. Just a terrific guy. The problem that I had with Mugabi is he had a shorter career than these guys because Mugabi's whole thing was hit and get hit. I knock you out or you knock me out. And that was the only way he went. There was no middle ground with Mugabi. He fought Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and it was a war to end all wars. Yeah. And I think that's one of your favorite fights, Nick. Hagler ended up getting that win there. But Mugabi was a killer, and I loved him. He was fantastic to watch, but in the longevity of the sport, he didn't last and he didn't hold up. But Sugar Ray Leonard did. He won belts in 5 different weight classes. He beat the best. He beat Roberto Duran was his first loss. He lost to the great Roberto Duran. Roberto Duran was at his prime. Ray Leonard came back to win the fight with the famous no mas fight, where he was out hustling Roberto Duran so fast and so clean that Roberto Duran finally said, no mas, no mas. I'm not fighting any longer. No more.
Well, I tell you, I know what Roberto Duran, because I was hanging out with Roberto Duran not too long ago with Kid Sharkey at Madison Square Garden, and I know what he doesn't say no mas to.
Food.
Food.
Yeah. Roberto Duran's a big man nowadays. He could fight at heavyweight. He may have the skills for some of these guys now, too. Let's go down to the 70s.
70s, yes.
The 70s was a tough era because you had a ton of guys that were up and down, here and there. There was great champions, but there wasn't real long champions. There wasn't guys that stayed champions for a real long time. My favorite fighter of the 70s was a man I just mentioned, Roberto Duran. When he was at lightweight, he was a killer. When I say a killer, this is a guy that instilled fear in his fans like a Sonny Liston heavyweight did, like a young Mike Tyson did. He was evil. You would look at him across the ring and he had a scowl. And when he attacked, he got on with such ferocity and such ferociousness that guys would just fold up. He would break ribs, crack faces. And he used to say in the ring, he said, the only thing that I was upset I didn't do with this guy after he knocked a guy out would be that I didn't kill him. I wish I killed him. As he got older and more jolly, adding some weight and food, still retained a lot of his skills, but he became more temperamental, like a George Foreman. George Foreman had an evil scowl too, but he came back and he was a happier guy.
Yeah, well, you have to have that killer instinct in boxing.
When they're young.
I just don't understand why you haven't mentioned my favorite and many people's favorite.
Go ahead.
And that's Muhammad Ali.
There's a couple of reasons about Muhammad Ali. Muhammad was an icon. Most boxing historians, boxing experts will list him in either the top heavyweight position of all entire time, if not the top 3 definitely of all entire time. Most people, a lot of guys will split other Joe Louis or Rocky Marciano on the other side. I liked Muhammad Ali. He was a fantastic boxer. He did too many things that as a boxing trainer I didn't like. His skills and his elusiveness allowed him to taunt and play with people to the point where he would take a lot of unnecessary shots as he slowed down that people said, well, he learned this thing and he became this guy that could avoid all shots or take shots till people wore down. He invented the rope-a-dope, which was something that Ali did a little bit later in his career where he leaned against the ropes and just allowed guys to punch themselves out and then he would come back. I couldn't stand that. When you get to the point where you have to stand still and let a guy wear out his punches on your face, It's where I say that's not really boxing anymore.
So you're really saying you would have liked, from a boxing trainer perspective, to see Ali move more like a Willie Pep?
Yeah, I mean, he had the skills to do it. And when he got older, sure, we wouldn't have had the Ali that came back and beat Kenny Norton, and he beat Leon Spinks for the second time, and he beat George Foreman. You know, these are fights later in his career. We wouldn't have had those fights, but you would have had this really special fighter that ended his career at the right time. Ali ended his career much too late, and that goes on with a lot of people. But he didn't do it because of the money. He was ultra rich, had tons of endorsements. He did it because he couldn't get enough of the fans, and the fans cheering and chanting him. He was already an icon. He did a lot of things. He refused to go to the Vietnam War, and he did a lot of things that tons of people loved. He's the only athlete that throughout the whole entire world, still to this day, everybody knows who he is. If you're born in Ghana, 5 years old, you'll know who Muhammad Ali is, still to this day. But I really just wish he ended his career earlier. And that's my whole thing with Ali. The young Ali, the Cassius Clay, was unstoppable. He beat a young Sonny Liston who was at the top of his game, a prime guy, a primal guy that was just a man-eater that could just destroy people. And Ali took him apart like he was nothing, made him look like a baby. And that's really my thoughts. Marciano, I loved Marciano. He was a great guy, undefeated. I thought a few of his guys, and I know Steve Cotto and some of these boxing experts out there are going to kill me for saying this, but he did fight some of these guys at the end of their careers, you know. But he beat all the best, and he stayed undefeated, and he's the only guy that retired and didn't make that comeback to do it. I wish he fought one more tomato can to get it even 50. That has a little bit to do with my OCD. But, yeah, Marciano was the goods. And Joe Louis, one other guy who's also up in that top three, could do everything. Fought everybody, did everything. He fought, I think, 25 successful title defenses in the heavyweight division. The only guy that even came close to him was Larry Holmes, that I think did 21. But 25 successful title defenses. And they used to say the Joe Louis Bum of the Month Club. Some of those bums of the month at the time, because the heavyweight division at that time was so strong, some of those bums of the month today would be the heavyweight champs.
Very true. Very true. Now, a lot of people might want to pick your brain about boxing. They may want to comment on what you've said, or may disagree or agree. If people wanted to reach you, they could always stop by the club that you're a boxing trainer. We haven't even touched on that. You're a boxing trainer.
I am a boxing trainer. I've had my license now going on 11 years. I'm a trainer at the Westchester Boxing Club. It's 220 Ferris Avenue, first floor in White Plains. Fantastic club. What we do is we emphasize not really a white-collar boxing, but a boxing workout. It's a professional boxer's workout. What we do is we train you as a fighter would do, albeit a condensed version, but it's the same thing a professional would do. It involves a lot of calisthenics, a lot of bag hitting, and learning the exact way. It's not an aerobics class where you go and the trainer says 1, 2, 3, and you're doing the same thing about 20 other people in the room are doing. It's all individualized. We're on top of these people. Each person gets trained differently because their bodies are different. One could be faster than the other, one could be slower. One might hit harder, one might hit easier. And we emphasize that. It's about an hour workout depending on how good you are, and it's just a fantastic workout. We haven't had one complaint in that place.
Now, the amount of patience it takes to be a boxing trainer, have you found that to be something of a challenge, or has that just come natural?
Patience, Nick, I would say comes from my love of the sport. Sport, when I started when I was a kid, was one of these things where I was a little bit of trouble when I was younger. Boxing helped me to build character and helped me become a man and a gentleman. And you learn you didn't have to fight on the streets because you had that inner confidence, and it really helped out in all aspects of life. It's what I try to emphasize today. But to answer your question, the most frustrating thing is not taking a long time teaching somebody how to learn the game, or having 50 people all in there at once and trying to pay attention. That's the greatest love of the game. There's nothing there. The hard part is when you lose somebody and you have a guy that you just didn't connect with. And, you know, it could be a troubled kid, could be a troubled adult, an individual, and that's the frustrations. But that's everything in everyday life. You may lose somebody once in a while, but it's the one guy that you help that really it makes you keep going.
You're currently training a boxer by the name of Gabe Ranade from out in Rockland County. Seems to to me, I've seen that he's got all the makings of the next Golden Glove champ. What do you think about that? And you know, do you think that it's enough time at his age of 30 years old to be able to train him in one solid year, seeing that the Golden Gloves just ended, to get him in shape for a Golden Glove match?
Yeah, he has a lot of qualifications that can get him there. What he has an advantage is, yeah, he's 30 years old when he's starting for his first fight, but what he has at 30-year-old is the ability to listen and learn, where I might have a 16-year-old kid that has all the skills in the world, but he just wants to do things his own way. This guy listens. I can tell him what to do, and he'll pick up because he knows he has a limited time that he can do something. So he picks that up. The other thing is he works. He's a workhorse. He will get in the gym and work, work, work. He also has the confidence. He has the confidence where he goes in there and he says, I may feel stupid today because this isn't the way I feel comfortable, but my coach is telling me something, I'm going to listen. He does that. And then he has, my favorite thing is he's a southpaw. A southpaw, just for everybody that doesn't know, is a fighter that fights with their left hand. Boxers fight with their power punching. Their right hand, for me, I'm a righty, stays back. So I can throw it longer and throw a right hand. He's a southpaw. There's not a lot of southpaws out there in the heavyweight division. So he fights opposite everybody else. So he's almost a mirror image of the fighter that he's fighting, if he's fighting a righty, an orthodox fighter.
Now you have some you have a pretty decent stable of boxers there. Not that it's a competitive boxing gym per se,
Yep.
But a small percentage would be dedicated amateurs. Now those you have 3 kids. They're triplets, and their cousins actually are there, and they're 13-year-old triplets. I think that's kind of amazing to have 3 boys that are...
They're triplets, Albanian kids, 3 triplets, and they come from a fighting family. Their cousin or uncle is Elver Marique, who's a top 10 light heavyweight contender. And these kids are fantastic. They come to the gym. All they want to do is get in there and scrap, and you have to get them out of these wars fighting each other all the time because they're in there banging. Happiest kids, great manners, but what they're instilling very early in their lives through our gym is the character that they're building.
That's true.
You know, they're building a very strong core, not only the boxing and the athleticism and the breathing and the health areas, but they're also coming with the learning. They're learning to be men, and you can see that in their demeanor. They're just well-rounded kids, and yeah, the gym has... what we are is 90% is just physical fitness, but if there's a certain person that wants to come in and really has an interest in amateur boxing, we don't throw anybody in there where you're just going to come in and get a fight because you want to try. It's not really what we're about. We're not putting you in the ring unless you're fully prepared and ready to win the fight. Okay, so you have to be completely dedicated.
So you have, I think I remember some of the names. It's Gabe, Gary, another heavyweight.
Gary's another heavyweight, local kid.
Ramon.
We have Ramon Espinoza, who's a local White Plains kid. He's a welterweight. We have about, I would say, about 18 active fighters right now. We have Bo Barbieri, is a nice, coming along, nice 150-pound kid, skinny, tall, just the way you like him. A young Tommy Hearns, just a lot of power. We have Sal Alfano. He's a local kid. Some kids might know him from White Plains High School as a senior. Max Lambert, Alex Ademiak. Just a whole stable, about 18 kids without going off too far into it. But, yeah, they're the kids that are there that are ready. They're in there all the time, and that's the only way we'll do it. We will not allow somebody to fight unless they're in there and dedicated.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not in there to have it's a game. It's a sport. It's not in there to have somebody get hurt.
Exactly. Now, getting back to some things about the history of boxing, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about some other subjects, and
I did. There's 2 subjects I wanted to get on and touch on, Nick, before we leave, and I think it'll help the public, anybody that watches the show, and I know we're getting a decent following around the area, is the current heavyweight situation. People were interested in boxing when Joe Louis was the champ, the heavyweight champ. Rocky Marciano was the heavyweight champ. Muhammad Ali was the heavyweight champ. George Foreman was a heavyweight champ. And even to the most contemporary days, we had Evander Holyfield, who still brought a strong crowd. A young Mike Tyson brought a strong crowd. And I do emphasize young Mike Tyson, not when he started coming back and making a mess of his life, which I still think he needs a lot of help with. And even George Foreman had an interest in coming back from a 10-year layoff and coming back as this jolly old preacher. But all of a sudden, if you walk down the street right now, you could ask anybody, and I'm talking dedicated sports fans, maybe not all boxing guys, but guys that know sports, that should know who the heavyweight champ of the world is, and you say, who's the champ? I don't know. Once in a while somebody will say Klitschko. Well, which Klitschko? There's two brothers, and one was a champ and the other one was a champ. Let me explain what's going on with the heavyweight champ. To make it as basic as possible, there is three main belts in boxing. There's the WBA, the WBC, and the IBF. The WBO is another belt that's becoming a little more prominent. So in total, we have 4 heavyweight champions, unless they unify and fight each other. Because of money situations, they don't fight each other any longer. It's very rare. The last one to unify the belt was Evander Holyfield a couple of years ago, well, probably within the past 10 years. The reason why is there's no federal boxing commission that oversees the whole thing and makes it one unified entity. There's local and state commissions. So if right now somebody says, I want to start a new boxing organization, they have every right to. There's no monopoly. It's separate entities. So to answer everybody's question, the linear champion, and when I say linear, the fighter who is the man who beat the man who beat the man before they all separated is Vladimir Klitschko. He's a giant Ukrainian guy. Ukrainian guy. He's about 6'5", 6'6". Terrific fighter, great skills, hard hitter, does everything right. When he was younger, he fought a contemporary European style, which is a very stand-up style, but he learned to move and bend now. For a big guy, it's very hard. He had a brother, Vitaly, who was also the heavyweight champ of the world. Because of injuries, back problems, leg problems, he got out of the sport. They're thinking about making a comeback. But to answer everybody's question that's on your mind, right now the true heavyweight champion is Vladimir Klitschko. The 3 other champions, in no particular order, are Shannon Briggs, who's our local guy from Brooklyn, Brownsville.
Making a great comeback.
He is making a fantastic comeback. He beat another Russian fighter, Sergey Liakovich. Ended up stopping him. Then we had a giant 7-foot Russian, Nikolai Valuev. He just lost his title last weekend to another Russian, Ruslan Chagayev. Beat him with straight right hands, reaching up and popping the guy. It was a close decision, but he won it. So you have 1, 2, 3 Russians and Shannon Briggs.
Well, you have Lamar Brewster, Chris Bird. Are they in that mix?
Chris Bird's on the receiving end of a hard loss to Klitschko. He got knocked out. He got really strong loss. Chris Bird was a middleweight moving up to the heavyweight class. In the Olympics, he fought at the middleweight division. Put on a lot of pounds because heavyweights is where the money is. Fought, was a champion. I don't really put Bird in the mix anymore, although he is a top 10 ranked contender right now because the heavyweights are just too big now.
Now, I'd love to, and we'll definitely have you back on another time, Ryan. But I know I just wanted to kind of we have a little bit more than 1 round left here, as we say in boxing. It's a shame we don't have some more time, but I know you want to talk about some upcoming fights.
This is what I'm excited about, Nick. This is why I'm a boxing historian. There's 2 fights coming up, folks. There's one this weekend, May 5th, next weekend, May 5th.
And everyone in the studio audience is invited over to your house to watch the fight.
They are.
Okay,
and then there's another one, June 9th. These are fights that come from the dawn of time when boxing first started. These are fighters that mix every kind of comic book character that you could have. And the fights I'm talking about, the first one is Oscar De La Hoya versus Pretty Boy Floyd Mayweather. Oscar De La Hoya was the golden boy. 92 Olympics, he was the last guy to win an Olympic gold medal. Great looking guy, fantastic boxers, won belts in all different weight classes, and just a phenomenal athlete all around. Persona of a gentleman. Comes off as an actual intelligent guy. He's very nice, has a family, just a good all around person. This is a guy that's towards the end of his career. He's always fought the best. He's only lost his couple of fights that he lost. They were to the best. But he just came back with a nice comeback. He fought a guy by the name of Ricardo Mayorga, who was supposed to be this killer, this crazy guy that could knock anybody out. De La Hoya made him look like a baby. Although this guy wasn't really a defensive specialist, but still it was a nice knockout for De La Hoya to come back. Floyd Mayweather right now is a pound-for-pound #1 champ of the world. And when I say pound-for-pound, what that means is a fighter, if they all weighed the same, he would be the best. And Floyd is an undefeated fighter, young, brash, cocky. I can't stand him myself. Floyd, if you're listening, I ever meet you, I don't want to fight you. I do like you as a person, but Floyd is one of those guys that's very obnoxious. He's arrogant, and it might be a role. In person, he might be the greatest person in the world, but he's playing the role of the bad guy. Oscar De La Hoya is the good guy. They both have speed, blinding speed. They both have knockout power, and they both want to kill each other.
Call it.
Okay, I am taking Oscar De La Hoya, and I'm against every person out there in the 10th round by knockout.
Okay.
One last quick one. Miguel Cotto, undefeated, young up-and-coming guy, no-nonsense knockout artist, against the brash, also young, Zabdiel Judah. Zabdiel Judah is a guy that's super quick, speedy, ex-champion. He has a problem. He likes to stick his chin out. He likes to clown. He likes to play. If he had his hands up, he'd still be undefeated, folks. But he doesn't keep his hands up.
He was exposed with Kostya.
And he's not going to keep his hands up against Miguel Cotto. He'll do good in the early rounds, get cocky, get knocked out by Cotto in round 7.
Yeah, I can disagree with you there. I would tend to lean more towards Floyd Mayweather, though.
Of course, everybody is.
You know, it's just, Ryan, I just think that that Mayweather has the speed. I don't think he can deal with Oscar's power, but I do think that Floyd's going to be smart enough to not let Oscar set his feet and really dig down and punch to the body hard. I think Mayweather's going to be on his toes, moving and running. Quick little punches, flashy like he does in the mitts, and move. I think he's going to just try to score points, win the round by round. I think that if he does play De La Hoya's game, and if he tries to trade with De La Hoya, there's absolutely no way that Mayweather can withstand De La Hoya's punching power. De La Hoya's been there with top world champ.
Every guy that he's fought in the past 10 years has been a ranked guy.
Yeah, and not only that, even though he hasn't fought that often, as often as Mayweather, but you have a lot of punching power there. And I think that, you know, it's going to take De La Hoya a lot of extra, you know, effort and work to really cut that ring off.
Well, he's ready for that. Oscar's last hurrah. Bet the bank on it. He's a heavy underdog. You'll make a lot of money.
Okay, Ryan, thank you very much
for
coming
Nick.
on the show.
Thanks
I appreciate that. And this has been another edition of In the Ring. Ryan-O-Leary, contemporary boxing analyst, historian, and boxing trainer. You can always visit Ryan at Westchester Boxing Club Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 p.m. to 8, Saturday from 11 to 2. If he's not there, we can always get you in touch with Ryan, and you can pick his brain and ask him any questions you'd like and comment on anything you'd like to comment on. You can always mail your comments or questions to Ryan-O-Leary at Westchester Boxing Club, 220 Ferris Avenue, White Plains, New York, 10603. Thank you very much for tuning in. There's been another edition of In the Ring. I'm your host, Nicky Knuckles, and keep on punching.